our October 20th meeting of the Architecture Review Board to order and ask Madam Secretary to call the roll.
Nicole Conkle.
Here.
Irma Johnson.
Oh, no.
Have we lost her again?
We may have. Irma, can you hear us? I think she's frozen. Now what do we do?
Do we still have a quorum with Jennifer and you?
Nope.
I think Jordan has her on the phone, or he's trying to get her on the phone.
We're talking to somebody about it. So. Aha.
Kind of crazy around here.
There she is. I think.
It is. I am sorry, guys. My internet went out about an hour ago.
Oh, no.
I know.
Okay, now.
We're in the process of roll call. Nicole Conkle is here. Irma Johnson.
Here.
Jen Oberlin.
Here.
And Patty Cross.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay. I'm assuming everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes. So we would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Conkle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All righty, let's have our first item. I believe that there's a plan to switch items 1 and 2 in old business. Is that correct? Mr. Jordan?
If you all would like to, that's up to you all. Last time we swapped them just because we anticipated the conversation being longer, but whatever you all would like to do.
Okay. I don't care, so.
Sorry. All right, then let's just proceed with the agenda as is.
Okay.
Sorry.
All righty. That's fine. Madam Secretary, please call the first item.
Before I call the first item, I'd like to remind anybody, applicants and all, that if you're going to speak, to please list your name and address so that I can get that for the record. With that said, in accordance with Articles 4, 17, 18, and 19 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Dominique L. Wilson, doing business as New Life Counseling Services, LLC, is requesting a conditional use permit in order to allow a major home occupation and behavioral health services for the property located at 522 Steel Street. The property is more particularly described as PVA map number 062-14-01-008.00. This item was tabled from a previous meeting.
All right. Yeah, so as Dawn mentioned, we visited this last September, and there were some concerns that the board had with this request, and they had asked staff to confer with the sewer department as well as the public works department regarding the rear parking area in the back. Their comments are attached to your report, and I'm happy to answer any questions about those. I did also want to address some of the citizen comments that we received again from adjacent property owners. And first, I'd like to start with something that was pointed out to me that I misunderstood initially in my review, which is the requirement of the ADA parking. One space is actually required for from the American Disabilities Act, a handicap spot. So these spots are a little bit different than a standard parking space. So a 11-foot wide van accessible space is required, along with a 5-foot access aisle. So that takes up 2 parking spots in itself. I was under the impression that if you had under 5 spaces total on your lot, that ADA parking was not required. However, I looked at the regulations earlier this afternoon, and it indeed is. I'll share the screen briefly with you all to show what's required. So this is a document that's provided by the federal government from the Department of Justice. And so here you can see total number of spaces required, minimum number of accessible parking spaces required. So anything from 1 to 25, 1 is required. As the parking layout is shown, that could not meet this requirement as proposed. So I have a concern with how do we meet that requirement. ADA requirements aren't something that are in our zoning ordinance typically, but it's something we do look at on these larger projects. And this small project, I just didn't think of it. So until we can get that concerned, I'm afraid that I can't recommend approval until we figure out how this is going to be accommodated, as this is a federal law. And that's totally my mistake. From when I wrote this report, I didn't even think about it. So it was pointed out to me by one of the adjacent property owners yesterday. I think we should discuss this part. I do have answers to some of the other questions from the citizen comments we received, but I think we should discuss this issue first and how we could, if there's a way to accommodate that request. I'm not sure if there is, and how we move forward with approval if we don't consider that.
Okay, Ms. Conkle? Nicole?
Sorry, bear with me. I was trying to unmute myself there. I guess I would like to ask the applicant, if I understand correctly, Mr. Miller, you're saying there's only room for 1 parking space where they were going to put 2 in the green space. Dr. Wilson, is that as 1 space going to work for you?
Dr. Wilson, we can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I do meetings all day and I try to make sure I Zoom when sorry about that. I didn't pay attention. I was on mute. To make sure I understand. So to my understanding, was it originally I would have room for 2 spaces in front of the house, and we were looking at considering 2 spaces in the green space in the back? Did I understand? Because that's what I thought we were discussing. So now what is being said, is it saying it'll just be 1 spot in the front because of the size that's needed? Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, that's right. So the ADA spot has to be van accessible, so that takes up 2 spaces alone. So that would take up the 2 parking spaces in the backyard. What you see here on the screen is a standard 9x18 parking space. You can see that just barely fits there in the backyard if they're parallel beside each other like that.
Would I be allowed to have a handicap spot in the front? To me, that would be more ideal for them anyway, because that's where the handicap ramp is in the front.
Yeah, that's a that is an option. That would have to be determined by Public Works. So the size of a standard ADA spot on street, which they do in some instances, they'll put a designated handicap spot on street. And I believe that those are the same standard sizes as a normal on-street parking space as well.
Yeah, because we do have some clients that do have, ADA disabilities. So yeah, if anything, I would look at the front, them parking in the front, what would be more convenient than having to walk around.
I believe that the sidewalk there is slightly sloped to where there's not like a curb right where from the street to the sidewalk. It is sloped down so that you do have that area where an ADA accessible person could access from the sidewalk, from their car to the sidewalk there on the corner of Coleman and Steele here. But yeah, that's something I think if we do approve it, we want to talk with Public Works about how do we accommodate that. They have done that in the past, allowed ADA accessible spaces. Most recently, they allowed one on Lewis Street for Sig Lucier Brewing Company sometime last year. They went through, that's not in the historic district, but they did go through a conditional use process with the Board of Zoning Adjustments. So I'll just address briefly some of the other questions that some citizens had. In the report, there is a conflicting statement regarding groups. If you look in the conditions, I'm not sure which condition it is. We did state that no group sessions are permitted. And this was based upon the adjacent property owner's concerns, as well as Dr. Wilson in the last meeting. She stated that she'd be willing to forego that as well. There was a question about the type of parking and gravel, maybe that may not be completely impervious. Pavers, for instance, there are different ways you can design that. You could have pavers that have space in between each one with gravel, small pieces of gravel in between where the water can permeate to the soil beneath. Also, as stated by Public Works, gravel will also help some with the drainage, according to them. Public Works and the Sewer Department were made aware of the concerns addressed in the previous meeting based upon meetings and conversations I had with them. So their responses addressed their concerns. If they didn't address it, then they didn't have a specific concern with that issue that was brought up with my conversations with them. What requirements can be made to make sure that 522 still doesn't get flooded? As stated in my conditions of approval, if we approve it, that the applicant shall work with Public Works. Since there is a change in grade in the backyard there, a little bit of grading will have to be done, and Public Works does issue grading permits. So I'd recommend that they obtain a grading permit from Public Works and work with them on how to best mitigate any drainage issues. Perhaps a French drain may be a way to solve some of those issues as well. An issue was brought up about a handicap ramp. Building permit has been issued to the applicant to repair that ramp, as well as repair a broken window in the back that's busted, and also to paint the structure as well. Regarding the hours of operation, I think we should let the applicant address this and see what the board thinks, if they're amiable to what the applicant proposes regarding their hours of operation.
Well, my current hours of operation pretty much can run from like 8 to 7, but I'm absolutely fine with, I think what was initially mentioned, 9, yeah. Clients not allowed on the site between the hours of 9 p.m. to 7. I mean, if that's still not an issue, it's not an issue to me. And we're foregoing the DUI groups. Those usually are weekends, and it would be early. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
Do you anticipate?
Yeah, just an outpatient counseling practice. Like we do typical hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 6. That's it would just be me doing that. And like I said, I mean, honestly, right now with the COVID, I'm doing it from home, telehealth, but, still wanted to get this process started if possible. So hopefully when we come out of this, I'll be able to use the space.
Will you operate on the weekends? I think that was a specific thing that.
No, I don't do weekends. I learned how to put some boundaries in there. I have a 10-year-old that I like spending time with.
All right, that's all I have. If you all have any other questions for me.
Ms. Conkle.
I actually I wanted to reiterate my question to Dr. Wilson with the change in parking with one handicapped spot in front and the two in the backside corner. Will that be enough for you to do what you need to do?
Because I'm not doing any groups. So everything will be individual. Typically my sessions go 53 to 60 minutes long. So basically it'll be my car, and then if a client came, their car. So actually there would be extra space.
And if we did do the on-street ADA space, I'm happy. I think maybe we could make a condition that the applicant also work with Public Works to obtain that ADA space, and that a total of 4 parking spaces are still accounted for total. So if we don't do the backyard, we can still have those 2 standard spots. And if we do the on-street ADA reserve spot, then I think we can accommodate all the parking, but that's something we'll have to work out with Public Works.
Okay.
But as I said, they're standard size spaces. It's interesting if you do an on-street parking space versus what's required on site. You don't have to have the van accessible, obviously, because it's on street.
Okay, so how many total parking spaces are required?
4, but if you do an ADA space on the site, it needs to be van accessible, which actually takes up 2 spaces because it's wider.
Right.
It has like what is it called? A access aisle as well.
So
George, I'm
there'd
sorry.
only be three spots required if one of them is ADA?
Still the 4 if we did the on-street ADA space, from my understanding.
Oh. Okay.
So 1 ADA in the backyard and 2 regular spots out front?
So can you all see my screen?
Yes.
So the 2 regular here, an ADA here that's reserved, and then another standard here as well.
Okay. So it's a total of 4.
Yes.
Did we clarify, Mr. Miller? I've lost you. There you are. Number 15 and number 8 are the 2 that conflict. Which one are we getting?
Yeah, that's right. That's my issue. That was my problem. So we should strike condition 8 if you all want to recommend approval, and then keep condition
15, I think.
15. Yes.
Okay, and then we were adding something about working with Public Works.
Yeah. So there's 38 feet there in front of the house. The standard space is 18 feet in length, so that's 36 feet needed. So that's a little bit less, or it's 39 feet that's there in front. So there's still a few feet to play with there. And I think, from my understanding and working with Public Works in the past on these on-street ADA spaces, they are just a standard size on-street parking space. They're just reserved for ADA accessibility. sorry, that's something honestly that we should, when we're doing a comp plan next year and hopefully to redo our zoning regulations in a few years, we honestly need to put something in there about ADA regs as well, because it's like in this instance, I overlooked it.
I agree. All righty. Anything else from staff? Mr. Miller? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Dr. Wilson, did you have anything you wish to say?
No, ma'am. I'm just prayerful that I'm able to get the conditional use. Like I said, my intention is to help. My intention is to assist. And I know Franklin County does have a need for behavioral health services down there. So yeah, just that's my goal. I just want to help.
All righty. Are there questions for Dr. Wilson? Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
did you have something?
I'm still catching up because I'm still looking at total parking spaces. So what we're saying is we have an ADA space in the front along with another space and 2 spaces in the back. Am I right?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay, those were my concerns.
yeah, we just need to make sure with Public Works, perhaps this could be contingent upon that approval of the ADA space in front.
That was my next question. To make that kind of motion, could we even do it not knowing what their recommendation would be?
That's a good
Ms.
question.
Johnson, yes, we can make a contingency on it because we're giving an approval if the space is located there and if they are going to get approval from Public Works. If she chooses to put the space in the backyard, they would still have to come back here because then they wouldn't have 4 spaces. They'd only have 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Conkle, did you have something? No. Okay. All right. So we need to make a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow major home occupation with counseling and behavioral health services for the property located at 522 Steel Street, with all of staff recommendations listed in this packet, with the exception of line item number 8 under recommendations, contingent upon the report from Public Works being in agreement with the modifications to accommodate the ADA compliant parking.
Okay. Does that cover it properly?
Did she strike number 8?
I
Yes,
did.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? And I do want to clarify one thing, and I'm not sure I can do it here, but let me ask anyway. Dr. Wilson, do you plan to live in this house as your residence?
Yeah, well, I have 2 residents, but that drive, I know back and forth, especially like wintertime and times like that during the week, it'd be more convenient to stay there.
So you're considering it your residence or not?
I have 2 houses.
Okay. Okay.
So during the week, it'll be convenient to stay like when I work Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and I don't think we can quantify the number of days or hours that Dr. Wilson stays there to make it qualify as her residence if she makes that statement.
Okay.
Right,
I was just curious if your
I know.
son, if your family was going to join you in living there.
Oh, no, no.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
Ready for
other
roll call?
discussions?
Excuse me, but we have a motion on the floor and we're bringing up other items.
I'm so sorry. I've lost my mind. Okay. Let's call the roll.
Ms. Conkle,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin,
Yes.
and Ms. Cross.
No. Okay, there we go. And I'm assuming you will take care of talking with the Public Works and get all of those things. And so welcome to the
Yes, ma'am.
neighborhood.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 2.
In accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Southern Acquisitions LLC is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to paint unpainted masonry for the property located at 401 Murray Street. The property is more particularly described as PVA map number 062-31-26-015.00. This item was also tabled from a previous meeting.
Okay. Alrighty, staff.
Right. So since the last meeting, I did talk with our consultant and also with the applicant. You can see the consultant's response within your packet there. But staff is still recommending approval due to the precedent set by this board about a decade ago of painting an unpainted masonry building that's non-contributing. We don't differentiate those, unfortunately, in our zoning ordinance between the two, but we have traditionally, we've treated those two delineations differently between the two, with non-contributing structures getting a little more leniency. The applicant's proposing a lime wash, whitewash type of paint, which is more breathable. I did send you all the link of some information on that today that the applicant sent me. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions, staff? Ms. Conkle.
This may sound like semantics, but I'm curious. I looked at the information you provided from the applicant, and particularly the Home Depot. This talks about lime wash paint. So when I think about lime wash isn't actually paint. It's more like a finish or something. So I was a little confused by this being white lime wash interior exterior paint. Is it lime wash or is it paint? Do you know?
Gotcha.
Is it?
I don't have an issue with either type of it, but I'll let Ms. Strong give a statement on that.
Thank you.
I think there's some information on the Home Depot site that's explained that to some degree. Do we have any other questions for staff? If not, Ms. Strong, did you have anything you wanted to say about your project or and perhaps answer Ms. Conkle's question?
Well, in the past, we've used lime washes that were actually homemade lime wash. I think that was the product that we were testing. And as far as the chemical makeup of it, I'm not quite sure how it differs. I don't know that it does. I'm sure that putting paint on the end of that is just a technicality. I really couldn't say. I don't, can you bring it up? I mean, I don't know if you guys can bring it up or look on the website. I sent a link to the product. I assumed it would have the complete description of what it was.
It says it's a slow set slaked lime paint that specifically formulated to create unique whitewash effects.
It says it's authentic, slaked lime sourced from northern Italy, breathable and naturally mold resistant.
There you go.
Covers.
It's a product that's used on brick all over the country. And I mean, I believe that's specifically what it's for.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your project or?
Well, it's that particular building is not the most, it's not historically important and it's not necessarily pretty. And I think that if we were able to add a different color to it, it could just really, it'll complement the beautiful houses that surround it, that are historically relevant. So, I mean, the goal is to enhance the neighborhood, not to make it an eyesore. So I think we've proven in the past that, we choose colors well and we, complement the neighborhood. So I'm hoping that you guys go for it.
And we do have a comment that was sent by someone complimenting you and all the things that you do.
Aw,
So,
thank you.
and fully support your request. So,
Wonderful.
okay. Any questions for the applicant? If not, do I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion
Yes, Ms. Johnson.
in accordance with Articles 4, 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance. I make a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness for Southern Acquisitions LLC in their request to paint the unpainted masonry for the property located at 401 Murray Street, along with the 3 recommendations that staff has issued.
Do you have a second?
Is it too late to ask to add an additional recommendation?
Ms. Johnson, would you accept an additional?
Ms. Johnson
It
can,
What it is.
if she wishes.
Okay, rather than, it could either be a recommendation or a modification to the language in request. And I bring this up because Mr. Miller brought up a circumstance where we set precedent a decade ago. So I would like to either modify or recommend altering this to say request certificate of appropriateness to lime wash unpainted masonry. So we aren't further establishing that precedent. Or in the alternative, leave the language in the motion the same and add it to the list of recommendations.
I would accept that. Okay, would you like for me to start over? Yes.
Ms. Johnson, I don't think it's necessary. If you accept that amendment to it, then that motion can be voted on.
Can we have
Perfect.
a repeat of that amendment? Because it kind of lost me.
Under the request in our staff report, first page, is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to lime wash unpainted masonry rather than paint unpainted masonry.
Oh, okay. it's not a change in recommendations, it's a change in the actual motion.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify what we were doing.
Thank you.
Can I ask the applicant if that's okey dokey with them?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second, I think.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, let's call the roll.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Ms. Conkle.
Ms. Conkle.
Roll call. Ms. Conkle,
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
and Ms. Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing what you do to the building.
And thank you for the additional information.
Absolutely. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You as well. Okay, and we're into new business.
So number one of new business has been pulled by staff according to the agenda. So I'll go on to number two of the agenda. In accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Jason Delambry is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to construct a two-story porch addition and modify an existing window opening for the property located at 114 Shelby Street. The property is more particularly described as PVA map number 062-31-01-007.00.
Staff?
Right, so this is properties located on the 100 block of Shelby Street, which is north of 2nd Street, close to the river. So it features a two-story colonial revival style house constructed in 1930, according to the PVA records. The applicant would like to construct a two-story screened-in porch addition on the west elevation, which is the rear of the building. The proposed roof will tie into the existing structure and match the height of the existing building. All materials on the addition will be in kind and match the existing building. The applicant would also like to add matching railings on a small little non-original addition adjacent to the proposed addition. These railings will match what's on the two-story addition. The applicant's also proposing a new window opening and matching window in the existing location of a semicircular vent that is visible from West 2nd Street. On the south elevation face, in my report, I said Shelby Street. It faces West 2nd Street. That's my error there. The applicant is also working with the Heritage Council, SHPO, regarding this project. And as far as I'm aware, that they are in support of the proposal. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I am recommending approval with a few conditions. At the end of your report, you'll see the proposed drawings of what the applicant's proposing, as well as some similar styles on houses that have the same or a similar architectural design as this home.
Okay. Now, are there questions for staff? Ms. Conkle?
Thank you. Okay, this might be helpful. Excuse me, Mr. Miller, if you might share your screen. I'm curious about page 10 and the image you have. And I'm wondering if this gable, the first floor gable, would be covered by, because if you look at the drawing a couple of pages, I'm trying to figure out if that first floor gable is going to be covered by the porch railing. Is that what that's showing?
Okay, so there's the 10-foot fence here that you can see. No, that's not the area
Okay,
in question. No, it's, you actually probably wouldn't be able to see, you can't actually see that addition because of the 10-foot fence there.
okay,
The semicircular vent you see is where the proposed window will be though.
Oh,
gotcha.
I'll scroll to, here you go. So this is if you were looking directly in the back of the house.
Okay,
Yeah, this little guy here.
and that's, okay,
So this is the type of window they're proposing also. It would match this one on the addition as well. Same configuration, wood window. It just kind of has that semicircular design there on top, which kind of reflects that existing vent.
okay. We are. Other questions for staff? Okay. Do we see our applicant? I see the applicant. And do you have any comments you'd like to make to the board?
Thank you guys for looking at this. Just want to make a few little notes. As Eric said, I've been working with the Heritage Council, Eric Rawlings over there, over the last 6 years through 3 different application processes. I specifically bought this historic home down here on the 100 block of Shelby Street, next to the flood wall, specifically because me and my wife love older homes. This is from the 1930s. I have a degree in architecture, though I'm non-practicing, but that does feed into my desire to just really stay consistent with this older house. And then also, we're one of the smallest houses on our block. We have some larger houses down here, so I feel like the addition doesn't really outbuild the block or the house itself. We're just kind of expanding the space slightly because we are a fairly small house down here. But other than that, as the Heritage Council has said repeatedly, I just really want to match the nature of this house on every front. As Eric showed, some of these other pictures, I spent a long time researching and finding examples and actually staying in examples in the Midwest of this colonial style, and was pretty much exactly trying to replicate those 1920s and 30s porches. And overall, I just want to keep it in the nature of the house, and I want to fit in so that my biggest goal could be that people always thought it was here and it was not a new addition. So I may be nerding out on that a little much, but hey, what I say, non-practicing architect. So I really just want to match it as perfectly the house as possible. The roof that you guys mentioned is a kitchen addition that was done probably about 10 years after the original house was built. And literally you cannot tell the difference. It was an addition, but it was seamlessly built in the house. And so everything I'm doing now is trying to kind of meet that same standard to match it with the house.
Mr. Delenbro, my name is Ed Logan. I'm the attorney for the board. I just need to ask you, do you agree with the 3 staff recommendations on the report?
Yep. Me and Eric have talked about it. He's come out to look at the site, and I had no problem with any of that. That was already my goals, was to meet those staff recommendations. Like I said, I want to match it to the existing house as much as possible.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Logan. Any other questions? Then we would entertain a motion. Are we ready for a motion?
This is Irma
Okay.
Johnson. I would be willing to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness in accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance for Jason Delambre, requesting to construct the 2-story porch addition and modifying the existing window opening for the property located at 114 Shelby Street with the 3 staff recommendations included.
Excellent. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that motion. This is Ms. Conkle.
Okay. All righty. Let's call the roll.
Ms. Conkle,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin,
Yes.
Ms. Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
We
guys.
look forward to your construction.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have one more item, I think, maybe.
In accordance with Articles 4, 16, and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Bourbon on Main LLC is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to construct a covered porch on the back patio for the property located at 103 West Main Street. The property is more particularly described as PVA map number 061-42-09-009.00.
Okay, staff?
All right, I'm going to pull up screen sharing real quick here. Rotate it here. Can. Okay. So Bourbon on Main is the building. It's a restaurant bar. They would like to add a porch roof to an existing patio. So no walls or no sides, just a wood framing with a metal roof on top of it. You can see how the existing porch here in this image, it kind of slopes down in topography there, and it's constructed in that way. So they're proposing to have that slight shed roof that drains off to the, I guess that would be the east, to the east property line. It's not readily visible from West Main Street. You kind of have to strain to see that back patio area. However, if you're on the Capitol Avenue Bridge, looking across the Kentucky River, you can see it from a distance, that back patio from Bourbon on Main. In these unprecedented times we live in, this, I believe some of the reasoning that the applicant would like this is to provide for more outdoor seating, right? I believe they would like to have some heaters out there during these winter months so that they can seat more people outside in an appropriately social distance, that the patrons can appropriately social distance. So I'm recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Questions for staff? Ms. Conkle.
Only one. Thank you guys for tolerating all my questions. So Mr. Miller, the Capitol Avenue Bridge view shed, the picture, the very last picture in our staff packet, the pitch of the roof that's slanted, that's proposed, is it comparable to the pitches of the roof seen in this image?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. Looks like we have mostly flat roofs, or just standard gables. I don't think that a standard gabled roof would be appropriate in this instance, as I mentioned in my report.
Oh, no, I just meant literally the pitch of the angle of the proposed roof.
Oh,
The pitch of.
I don't know that. I don't know all the pitches of those roofs surrounding. It has a slight pitch to it, not a very steep pitch, but the building adjacent is, what is that? Goodwood. Yeah, it's slightly flat, but it's a totally different type of roof. Yeah.
Right.
I would, and this is not it's kind of this is a unique situation. It's not a street facing elevation. It's well, we know what it is. It faces the river, and yeah. So.
Okay. Other questions for staff? Okay, I think we have, where's our applicant? Willie?
Here, Willie, I'll unmute you. Sorry.
Okay.
Here we go.
You've got Willie and two attorneys, Eric Bronco and Joe Bowman for Taylor Marshall.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, would any of you all like to make any comments based on what the staff's report tells us, or just any comments at all, or and also we're going to want to know if you read the recommendations and if you're okay with those.
Eric Bronco here. I've read the recommendations. I believe it's really Willie's call on all this.
Okay.
And I have not seen the recommendations yet.
Okay.
Here, I can pull them up.
Okay. Do you want to read them, maybe, Jordan?
Sure. They're just our standard recommendations. One is that a building permit should be obtained prior to work commencing on the project. Any additional projects that require a building permit or modifications that can't be issued by staff for a certificate of no exterior effect, then that needs to come back to the board, and that the construction and design of the project shall adhere to the drawings contained with this in the report that were provided by the applicant.
Yes, that's totally agree with that. There's no design changes or nothing different you'd like to see.
Okay. Very good. Are there questions perhaps for the applicant? Oops, mercy. Okay. Seeing no questions for applicant, no further comments. Is there a motion? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. This is Ms. Kunkel. I'll make a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness to construct a covered porch on the back patio for the property located at 103 West Main with all these staff recommendations included.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Johnson, Madam Secretary, let's call the roll.
Ms. Conkle,
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Audio.
And there you go. We'll look forward to seeing your addition as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else before the board tonight?
No, we've also pulled the last item. I was still waiting on the applicant to get me some materials that I didn't receive in time. So we'll be revisiting that next month.
All righty, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Okay. All righty, all in favor, say bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.